Hello, in this math video, I will do an ACT math video regarding solving inequalities. So ACT math algebra, and we are doing solving inequalities. So oops, after this lessons, you will be able to solve an inequality for a range of values. Okay, so let's start with question one. Uh, which of the following is equivalent to the inequality negative 8x plus 2y is less than equal to 14? And you have multiple choices, A, B, C, D, or E. So if you look at all the choices, they all isolate y. So that's what I'm going to do. So let me rewrite it. We have negative 8x plus 2y is less than equal to 14. I'm going to solve for y. So first step is I'm going to add 8x to both sides. And then you have 2y is less than equal to 8x plus 14. Then what I'm going to do is solve for y by dividing both sides by 2, or everything by 2. And remember, you don't change the sign unless you divide or multiply by negative. So this symbol stays the same. Y is less than equal to 8x over 2 is 4x. 14 over 2 is 7. And that's not A, B, or C. I believe it's going to be, what is that going to be? I think that's letter E, right? Letter E is definitely the same as y is less than equal to 4x plus 7. Okay, let's move on to question two. Okay, so question two says it's which of the following represents the solution set for negative 15 is less than equal to 2x minus 13 is less than 3. So this is a little bit different. What you want to do is if you look at all the choices, F, G, H, J, K, look how they have the X right in the center. So that's what we're going to do. So let me rewrite it. Let me rewrite the problem. So we have negative 15 is less than equal to 2x minus 13 is less than 3. So what you got to do is you just have to keep in mind there's three sides. There's the middle part, right? The further right, and then the further left. So for example, if you want to get rid of this negative 13, you're going to have to do it on all three sides. So you're going to have to add 13 here, add it on the further right, and don't forget the further left. Okay, so this cancels. So now you're left with less than equal to 2x, and it's going to be less than. So what's 3 plus 13? 16. What's negative 15 plus 13? Negative 2. Okay, now we haven't changed the sign yet because we haven't divided or multiplied by negative, so the sign's the same. And then the last step is get rid of this 2 so we can isolate x. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. So here, here, and here. So you get x is less than, and then 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then this stays the same. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So here's our answer. And which one of these are similar? Yes, that's correct. Letter F is the one. Okay, let's move on to question three. If negative 3x plus 7y is less than equal to 4y plus 6, and the x is an integer, which of the following statement must be true? If you look at all the choices, for example, A, B, C, and D, and E, what do they all have in common? They have the x isolated. So that's what I'm going to do. So let me rewrite it. So I'm going to isolate x. So first, check before I move things around, check always if you can collect like terms. So on the left, you have an x and y. They're different letters, so you can't combine them. On the right, the same thing. You have a letter and a constant. They're different. So what I would do next is get all the y's on one side. So I'm going to subtract 7y. So you get negative 3x is less than equal to, what is 4y minus 7y? Negative 3y plus 6. And then I'm going to solve for x by getting rid of this negative 3. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 3, including the negative 6. So remember, we said that if you divide or multiply by negative, you do got to flip the sign. So it's going to be x, and then you do have to flip the sign. So it's going to be less, greater than equal to. And then negative 3 divided by negative 3 is y. And then 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. And that looks like that would be letter D. Okay, so that was question 3. Let's move on to question 4. Which of the following values of x satisfies the inequality? We have the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is less than 11. Okay, so we're dealing with absolute value, right? So what we got to do, and if you look at all the choices, the x is right in the center. So that's how we should make our final answer, as x is in the center. So what I would do is, let's see. We have the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is less than equal to 11. What I would do is first make sure there's nothing near the absolute value before you make out your two inequalities, right? And then you have to also make sure that this number is positive. If it wasn't, so if this was a negative 11, that would be no solution automatically. So make sure there's nothing near the absolute value and then make sure this is positive. That's true. So you can write out your two inequalities. So my first inequality will be 2x plus 5 is less than 11. And then the other inequality is 2x plus 5. And then you got to flip the sign so it's to be greater than, and then you're going to put a negative. Okay, go ahead and solve for x. So you're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So you get 2x is less than 11 minus 5 is I believe it's 6. And then divide this by 2 and you get x is less than 3. Okay, over here do the same thing. You're going to subtract 5 from both sides. You get 2x is greater than negative 11, negative 5 is negative 16. Divide this by 2. And then the sign stays the same. Negative 16 over 2 is negative 8. So you have to understand that this right here, for example, if you look at letter F, this is always backwards. So if it's anywhere like this, you just have to remember this is always backwards. So right here, this is the same thing as x is less than 3, and then this is backwards. It looks backwards, right? Um, it's really x is, you would have to flip the sign. It's greater than negative 8. So based on that information, I think that is the answer, right? So right here, this can also be expressed as x is less than 3, and then it's less than negative 8 because whoops, this is backwards, which is really the same thing as x is greater than negative 8. Okay, so that is kind of something you have to remember. If it's in this form, this part is always backwards. So the correct answer is letter F. Okay, let's do the last one. Question 5. Which of the following is a set of x such that x plus 2 is greater than x plus 1? So yeah, what I would do is try to just get all the x and try to just simplify, try to solve. I would have to get one side, I would get all the x's on one side, so I would probably subtract x from both sides. So this cancels, so you're left with 2, and then this cancels, and then this is still greater than, and then you're just left with 1. Okay, so you have 2 is greater than 1. What happened to the letters? It disappeared, right? So you got to ask yourself, is this a true or false statement? If it's true, that means it's all real numbers. If it's false, it's no solution, right? So it is 2 greater than 1. So if you put it on the number line, put 2 the further larger on the right, and then 1 is on the left. Is 2 greater than 1? Yes, it is definitely true. So that means it's B, all real numbers. Okay. So I am going to stop here.